Hello everyone, Voodoo here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Havoc Demon Hunter Mythic Plus Trinkets. I've had a lot of questions about it recently, about which to play. Should I play this? Should I play that? What's good, what's not? So we're going to go over it. We're going to kind of rank them almost, so to speak, and I'll tell you guys kind of the best options for you to use in your Mythic Plus. Before we get to that though, make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. We just passed 9,000 subscribers, which is insane. Also, use my code VOODOO at checkout at gfuel.com in order to get 20% off and help support the channel. Also today, I am recording with my friend Goose here. So welcome Goose, and let's get right into it. So obviously, the first thing we have to do is take a look at what trinkets are being used in Mythic Plus. Also, Goose is on my shoulder now. Now, I'm on a data aggregation guide website, and for the most part these websites are pretty much garbage. I would never recommend using these, but it gives us kind of an easy area to go and like look at what's possible here. So for the most part, we're seeing a lot of branch, a lot of Ash of the Ember Soul, and then a kind of a mix of passives, right? Crab, brand, sandglass, augury. I don't know who this person was. Pips. I think that's mostly, I guess, like snake and stuff. But oh, Goose is slipping. But there are a lot of other options for Mythic Plus in terms of what you can use. So generally speaking, you're going to want an active and a passive, and we're going to go over and kind of give the best actives and then the best passives. So I'm just showing this as kind of a visual about what, you know, some people are using. I wouldn't ever take this as like gospel or something like that. These websites are notoriously misleading. That's just how it is with data and wow. But let's break it down. So if those are the trinkets that the data or the data aggregation websites, which as again, not the best, are saying people are using, what do I recommend? What do I think people should be using? Well, it's going to split into three groups: actives, passives, and defensive trinkets. So let's start with the actives. Pretty easy, there's only two of them. So technically, our absolute best is going to be Witherbark's Branch. Now, most of you know Witherbark's Branch, love it or hate it. It drops from the Everbloom dungeon. It's a 2-minute on-use trinket, gives you agility, and then it summons these orbs that go to you and gives you a buff. Now, technically, if you can play this buff as optimally as possible, it's going to be your best option in Mythic Plus. And in Raid, it's really, really good as well. But, and I'll get to that but in a second, in Mythic Plus specifically, it's really, really, really hard to get the full value out of those orbs. Just kind of due to how you have to stack them. We swap over to WoW here for a second. You can see this is my character. So I'm going to use my trinket and it's going to summon these orbs. The best way to do it is grab 2 immediately and then kite this orb around for roughly 7 seconds until, you know, like 3 seconds or so, and then pick it up. By doing so, you get kind of the optimal extension of the buff. But in Mythic Plus, in like a trash pack or something, it's almost impossible to get that full value for the entire trash pack. So it's not really recommended. Also, people just kind of hate it. So instead, I recommend you use Ashes of the Ember Soul. So this gives you haste, which is a little unfortunate, but what it does is a 2-minute on use, which gives you a large amount of primary stat. You can see here, 441, it gives you almost 5,000 primary stat for 20 seconds, which decays every 2 seconds. And once that's gone, you lose this haste, same amount, for a minute. There's also like a smaller secondary effect where, like, if someone dies, you get the bonus without losing the haste, but that's really niche and not really applicable. So I recommend Ash of the Ember Soul, which comes from Smolderon, over Branch because it's much easier to use. You push this, you get the full value out of it instead of Branch. I do think Branch is still better in like Raid or single target, where you're fighting that target for the whole time. And there are multiple different variations of orb pickups that are best, or not best, but are close enough to the best where it doesn't really matter. But in Mythic Plus, where you need all that kind of damage right away, and most of the time, by the time you do that 20-30 second orb extension, you're just kind of going to lose it. Now, you really, really, really want one on use to pair with meta. That's why I'm recommending these 2-minute ones. Something like Mirror could work as well. I wouldn't recommend it as much. It's a 3-minute, which is unfortunate because meta is 2-minute now. But having Ashes or having Branch with the 2-minute meta burst you get with double Death Sweep, double I-Beam with Fell Devastation, and just kind of the extra haste and all that stuff is really, really powerful. And you absolutely need to pick up 1 or 2 of these trinkets for Mythic Plus. So if those are the passives, then what about the actives? Well, I have a bunch of sims here with kind of the M plus build just to show you. Now, one thing, this is done with the kind of single target profile, best in slot stuff. I see tier 31, whatever. That does have Toxic Thorn and Lifebound. It's from a while ago. I do think that Blue Silver Lining is a little bit better at certain breakpoints, yada yada yada. But importantly, in Mythic Plus, blue silk lining will always be better, but these sims don't have that. So what that's going to do is value mastery a bit more than it otherwise would. On top of that, because we have Thorncaller's Claw, it also will change things a little bit, but the general idea of what I'm going to show you is the same, and it's not really going to change much. So this is single target. Now, the whole reason I made this video was because of Augury for the most part. I've had other questions, but Augury is the main thing. We can see here on single target that Ashes and Augury are roughly 1% ahead of the next best option, which is Pips. Now, Augury, this is 496, Mythic of course, is a pretty powerful trinket in single target. It deals 757, well, it gives you 757 critical strike on equip, and is a proc trinket, which basically gives you your crits at like a little bit of extra damage. This damage is increased per enemy up to 5, but the main issue with this is that we kind of just don't want proc trinkets, right? Now, not having mastery is going to value this slightly higher, but a lot of people really think Augury the Primal Flame is just an insane trinket. And don't get me wrong, it's really good in single target. But the issue with these kind of effects is that they only scale up by like 15% or so whenever you add an extra target. So you're going from 1 to 2 targets, it's only going to do 15% more damage. However, if we jump from this sim to a 2-target sim, we can see our 2-target sim damage is roughly 333,000 DPS versus like 231,000 here. These are both just this is 1 target 5 minutes, this is 2 target 5 minutes. So this is almost a 100,000 DPS increase over this one, which means that as you add more targets, Havoc's damage goes up by almost 50%. So if you compare the 15% from this trinket to the 50% that our actual abilities are doing, stat trinkets will start to scale better into AoE. And of course, this extrapolates into further target counts as well. So Augury is really good, but the fact that it just doesn't scale very well into AoE because it's 15%, it gives us crit, which we have tons of, and isn't that valuable in AoE as well because not mastery, but like primary stat is so much better. And on top of that, it's a bit misleading because it itself does all your damage, and as you're higher geared or a higher skilled player, your abilities and your rotation and the ability to do that correctly will be doing more, right? So early on when people pick this up, they're low eye level, maybe they're not used to the rotation yet, which means that this will be doing a lot more damage relative to other things, where maybe later on or in the hands of a pro, you'll see that this trinket will be a lot less of your overall. Shout out to Shatterek, who kind of illustrated that. It's kind of where the idea for this video came from. But Augury is one of those trinkets that's really good in single target. You can see here 1%. But as we add targets, see here on 2 targets, it is roughly 0.4% behind Pips. And again, no mastery will make this sim a bit more skewed towards something like Firax. We keep going though to 5 targets, and it's 1.7% behind. And then on 8 targets, it's all the way down to 2.3% behind. So on a singular target, this trinket is very, very strong. It's very good on singular raid bosses if you need that single target damage. On ones with ads, it can kind of waste that proc a bit as like pad almost, so to speak, but it's still pretty good. But something like Pips is going to get a lot better. Now, if you can't get Pips, which is a raid trinket that basically your entire raid besides you will get ahead of you, then Crab and something called Ember of Nullification are going to be your next best options. Now, of note, again, I don't have the mastery stuff here in the sim, which will make Porcelain Crab a bit better than otherwise, but Ember Nullification is very, very powerful and is better than Crab in most scenarios. Nullification is an Agi and Verse stat stick, which has a small passive effect that can silence enemies when you take damage from them. That's magic. Minor, but useful. And this drops from Black Rook Hold. It used to be a tank trinket, now everyone can get it. And this one here, Porcelain Crab, is just a proc of mastery and avoidance, which is nice, which drops from Throne of the Tides. So this just always gives you Verse, which is nice for survivability. This always gives you agility. This also always gives you agility. And this also has a chance to proc mastery. And finally, Pips comes from the raid. Very hard for you to end up getting it because it kind of will go to everyone else before you. Unless you're in farm, because that's just how good Pips is for other classes in raid, but it gives you agility as well as passive stats and sometimes procs into a large boost of those stats. So as we flip through some of these target counts, this being 1 target, this being 2 targets, Pips is ahead, this being 5, Pips is ahead again, and then this being 8, Pips again is very ahead. Again, we'll say that the Crab is being overvalued. Checking out D-Slice as well, we see a similar story. So Pips is kind of going to be your best passive trinket, followed by Ember of Nullification, and then finally by Crab. Again, this one here is going to be a little bit pro-rated because I have less mastery here. So that's kind of rounds out the passive trinkets, with Firax being kind of the best single target option. But what about defensiveness? What if you're pushing those 28 keys, 29 keys, and you need to survive? Well, let's get to that. So if you're doing the bleeding edge keys and you absolutely need to survive, then Havoc really has two options. You have Prophetic Stone Scales, which is a cheap death that drops from the first half of Dawn of the Infinites, or you have the Firax Tank Trinket, which drops from the raid. This gives you Verse. It also is an on-use shield that deals some damage every minute and a half, and is pretty good. Realistically speaking, you can also use Ember of Nullification because of the versatility from it, which is pretty good. Havoc is one of those specs that doesn't really need the defensiveness. We're pretty good up to the, we just live. That's kind of our best thing. It's why, one of the big reasons why we're meta. But if you do find yourself dying a lot, you need these things to push, then you can use them. But again, unless you're doing like 30s right now or 29s, maybe a 28, depends on the dungeon. I really would just recommend going with Ember if you feel you need some defensiveness, rather than these two more extreme options. But again, they're here. This drops from Iridikron in Galakron's Fall, and this is from Firax in the raid. Both are good. It's good to pick them up if you want them. Again, if you're not, if you don't think you need to use them to survive specific things, Ember is going to be a bit better for you. So that is going to be it for a little bit of a primer on the trinkets. I have made this video because there's been a few, not changes so to speak, but questions about Firax trinket, about Augury, as well as the introduction of the Black Rook Hold trinket, which wasn't really discovered until recently. Hopefully this helped you out, helped you decide what trinkets to use in your dungeons or your dungeon runs, and hopefully this can help you time those keys you haven't before. A little announcement on my end, Friday will be my last video for about 2 weeks. I'm going to take a break before, not before, but during the holidays. So no streams the week of Christmas. I'll have some streams the first week of January, but no videos, and then videos again starting on, I think it would be the 9th of January. The second Tuesday of January will be my first video back. Little Christmas break, but been doing 2 videos, 1 to 3 videos a week for like a year and a bit now. I'm gonna take a bit of a break. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We just passed 9,000, which is amazing. Thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoyed it. So use my code Voodoo at checkout on G Fuel for 20% off and to support me. Follow me on Twitch, it's in the description. Join my Discord, become a channel member if you want to support me. And otherwise, yeah, thanks to the guys in the Havoc Discord who helped a bit with this one, indirectly so to speak, but they did help. Shout out to Shad and all them. And if you have any questions, drop it in the comments, join the Discord, join my Discord, ask around. Hope you guys enjoyed this, hope it helped. Have a good one. Big thank you to all of my channel members. Thank you, Fidi Gregory, Andrew Kino, Guillermo Lamas, Joshua O'Connell, Latand, Period, Brad Wisniak, Zuligan, It's Bulk, Magic Man 133, and Howley. Thank you all so much. Your support helps me make the content every week and keeps me going on this channel. Thank you all so much. If you want to support me, follow the link in the description to become a channel member. And again, thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.